How heavy should you lift for slap tear exercises? Another question has come through. We've got a lot of people out there in the world with slap tears, with terrible shoulder injuries, and they're wondering, how heavy should I lift? How much pain is acceptable? How do I know when I'm going too hard? And also, how do I battle with this mentality of, I want to go hard, I want to push, I want to work in, my gym sessions, but I can't. And how do I battle with that? Because that's something that I want to tackle in this. We call it the all or nothing mentality versus the sum is better than none. And the all or nothing mentality when it comes to slap tear and shoulder rehab is one of the most dangerous things you can have, because it's this mentality of, I want to be able to do my workouts this way, and if I can't do them this way, then I'm not going to do anything at all. And that causes people to rest when they have a slap tear, when they have a traumatic shoulder injury. They think, well, I can't do my workouts the way that I want to, so I'm not going to do them at all. And that is catastrophic. You must exercise when you have a slap tear or a torn supraspinatus or a torn subscapularis or a Bankart lesion tear, like any kind of shoulder injury that you have. Any kind of sports-related shoulder injury, you must exercise if you want to fix it. So it's very, very important that you follow the guidelines that I'm going to give you in this video, because this is something that so many people are dealing with. I'm just getting so many questions on my videos, on all social channels. They just desperately want to be able to fix their slap tear, fix their shoulder injury without getting surgery. And before we get started, I'm going to let you guys know again that right now we have an incredible offer if you want to join my UMS online coaching. It is right now, it's at a 38% discount. It's normally $79 per month, where you get to work with me, you get custom programs, you get direct coaching with me. And right now we're offering it for $49 a month for the first 20 people. We've still got 9 memberships left. So if you want to get one of those, go to unitygym.com/UMS-discount. Now, let's talk slap tears. Let's talk pain. Let's talk how heavy you should go. So what happens when you have a slap tear or any kind of traumatic shoulder injury is that the nervous system locks the shoulder down. It wants to protect the shoulder. It wants to keep it safe. And so what it's going to do is it's going to really tighten up all of the structures around the shoulder. So it's going to create inflammation. It's going to tighten up the muscles, and it's going to create this feeling of that when you try to move the shoulder, you get sharp pains, because that's the nervous system, that's nerves getting rubbed, that's impingement, because the shoulder is moving dysfunctionally and it's not moving the way that it wants to, and it's a defense mechanism. It's trying to prevent further injury by restricting range of motion. And so in the earlier phases of your slap tear rehab, you're going to be going very, very light, and you're going to be doing exercises where, if you're somebody that's used to going to the gym and doing a bench press session or something like that, you're going to be doing very, very little in these earlier phases of your slap tear rehab. Very, very light weights. It's all about technique optimization, and it's all about reteaching the body how to move. And basically through your entire rehabilitation process, you're going to be reteaching the body how to move. And there's the whole process of going from completely injured to being able to do everything pain-free again, is just these steps where every program phase, you're going a little bit heavier, you're doing a little bit of a greater range of motion, and you're challenging the shoulder just a little bit more. So it actually happens in this really beautiful, predictable, and systematic way. Like the shoulder gets better really nicely if you do the right things. The problem is that very few people know the steps to go from here to here. They just see themselves here and they want to be there, and they don't understand what the steps are between it. So they just see it as, well, I can't do that, so what do I do? How do I get there? And I was like that. When I had my slap tears, I had no idea how to, well, the first one, the second time I knew exactly what to do. But I worked with exceptional sports physical therapists that taught me what I'm now teaching you guys. And so how heavy should you be lifting? In the earlier phases, it's going to be very, very light. It's all about technique optimization. You're going to be lifting weights that seem almost pathetic, like the kind of weights that you could do, bicep curls with for 20 reps, and you're going to be doing pressing with that and rows. But it's all about reteaching the shoulder how to move properly. You've got to learn how to re-engage the scapular stabilizers. You've got to train the rotator cuff to do its job properly so that it holds the head of the humerus in the glenohumeral joint like this and keeps it there. And then every single program phase, every time you move to the next program phase, you're going to experience the reduction in pain that you'll experience when you do shoulder rehab correctly is almost instantaneous. When people get our 20-minute slap tear rehab routine, which is like the grassroots level for slap tear rehab, it's a really good starting place for everybody. most people get a reduction in pain in the first session. And the only times that people don't experience that is usually when they've lifted too much weight or when they've lifted with incorrect technique. Because what happens, when you're doing your pressing and your rowing, and I'm talking about this dysfunctional shoulder movement, when the scapular stabilizers aren't doing their job properly, the shoulders will usually elevate, the scapula will elevate, and that's a problem when you're doing pressing and rowing. That's not where we want the shoulders. We want the scapula to be depressed. And so that's one of the main things that causes people to feel pain and discomfort. Another one is that they're not retracting their scapula properly during pulling movements. And then another one is that they're getting joint glide so this is the humerus here, this is the bone up here, the humerus sits in the glenohumeral joint, and it's the cartilage behind the humerus there that's where the slap tear occurs. And the humerus is meant to move like this, but when the rotator cuff isn't doing its job properly, you get joint glide. And that's what causes this terrible pain. And so, all of the exercises in the earlier stages of slap tear rehab are really designed to reawaken that inner unit of muscles systems to stabilize the shoulder properly and to do their job properly. And then there's also some exercises that are there to strengthen the prime movers as well, to make sure that we're training the pecs and the deltoids and the lats. But it's much less than what the workout that you'd be used to doing. Like, I get people that come in to work with me in their slap tear rehab, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm so used to doing more volume than this. Can I, add these exercises in, and can I add those exercises in?" And the answer is almost always a no. You can't if you want to do this safely. There's this process that if we follow it properly, within 2 to 4 weeks, your program will be progressing to something a little bit more challenging. And that happens really predictably. Like every few weeks, you go to something that's a little bit harder. And so you've got to ask yourself, you're at this fork, in the road. You've got this injury and you're at this fork where you can either suck it up and just accept what you've got to do and go down that road and fix your shoulder. And it might take you 3 months, it might take you 6 months, it might take you a year. Everybody's different because everybody's shoulder's different. And it's also how well you assimilate the information, how well you work with a coach, how well you listen to what the coach is telling you to do and take it on board. And then you've got the other journey where you think, "Oh, this sucks, I hate this, I'm just going to rest, or I'm just going to try and do it my way," and you go down this road. And I've seen that time and time again where I'm working with people where they talk about, "I've had this injury for 4 years and I can't fix it, I'm desperate for a solution," and they're looking at the possibility of surgery, which in itself is a really bad road to go down if you haven't tried good rehabilitation, because if you get surgery or not, you still need to rehabilitate the shoulder. All the surgery is going to do is they're going to clean up inside the shoulder, they're going to reattach the labrum. There's several things that they do. Sometimes they reattach the bicep tendon in a different spot, which can be problematic as well. But it does nothing to remind the stabilization systems of the shoulder of how to do their job properly. You still need to do that work. So whether you're going to get surgery or not, doing this process that I'm talking about is vital. You must get your head around this, that you need to do the exercises correctly and that your exercises safely. And so the battle that you're likely to be going with is how heavy should I be lifting? How much pain is okay? And how do I know when to go up? How do I know when to increase? So when you start, you'll be lifting very, very, very light weights, like so light that it just seems almost crazy that this would even be doing anything for you. And if you experience, and then you'll be working within a rep range. So you'll be working with like 8 to 12 reps for an exercise. The first thing that you do is work up towards being able to do the higher rep range of what you've targeted for. So 8 to 12 reps is usually a good start point for something like shoulder rehab. Sometimes it's 12 to 15 reps. And then when you get to the upper rep range and you can do all of your sets at the higher rep range, so let's say 12 reps if it's 8 to 12, then you can increase the weight in the next workout. And you might find that you can do that in every single workout. In every single workout, you can increase the amount of reps you do, or you can increase the amount of weight you do. But we're talking micro increases. Like you might be pressing with 5-pound dumbbells and you go to 6-pound dumbbells. You don't go from 5-pound dumbbells to 10-pound dumbbells, which seems crazy because you might be somebody who's used to pressing 60-pound dumbbells, and the jump to go from 5 pounds to 10 pounds, it just seems so light that it would seem insignificant. But we're not dealing with normal training here. We're dealing with, working on a slap tear. So and then what's going to happen is eventually it's probably likely that you'll get to a point where you experience a little bit of pain during your workout. So how do you know if that's okay, and how do you know if you've gone too hard? Pain during a set that goes away after the set is totally fine. It's to be expected, and you don't need to worry about it at all. Pain that persists after the set but ends after the workout, so you don't have pain after the workout's finished, is not too bad. You don't really need to worry about it. What we do need to worry about is if there's pain the next day that was greater than the pain you had before the workout. So that's what we call the baseline level of pain. So that's like the level of pain that you feel when you just reach, up into the high shelf and you go, oh man, I can feel that shoulder injury, or when whatever it is that you do, that's your baseline level of pain. If that increases, then that's a problem, and you need to, reduce the weight or reduce the range of motion or change your tempo and all of these things. And, I want to leave you guys with this. When you are dealing with a slap tear and when you're dealing with shoulder rehab, the intention behind every single rep of every single exercise of every workout that you do is vital. It is so important that you are paying so close attention to the range of motion that you're doing, that you're being very intentional with your end ranges. So the point where every rep ends in both directions, that you're being very intentional with your tempo. Your tempo is vital to get right, so that your workout will, like, we often use the 3-0-1-0 tempo in rehab because it's a really nice way to be able to do a controlled eccentric and a controlled concentric phase. You don't just pay that off. You don't just look at those numbers and go, oh yeah, whatever, I'm just going to move the weight. That you're being very intentional with the reps that you do. So you're recording your reps, you're recording your weight with something like, the app that we use for our coaching, so that you can look back on your previous workout and you can know exactly how much you did, how much volume you did, how much weight you lifted, so that you can then use progressive overload to go a little bit further. You don't want to just go into, every workout kind of winging it and thinking, oh, I'll see how much I can lift today. It's very, very important that you get all this stuff right. And then there's a lot of things that can come into play that are going to, potentially cause hurdles. Like for me, I went to a wedding on the weekend. I haven't been to a wedding in a while. I should tell you guys this story. My wife is half Lebanese, and we went to my first ever Lebanese wedding. It was one of her cousins. And man, that was one of the most crazy experiences I've ever been to. They have these, I've never heard of this before, but apparently it's a thing at Lebanese weddings. People say, oh, did they have the drums? And man, did they have the drums. They had these 8 guys with these massive big drums, and they're banging them on the dance floor while they're playing, the traditional Arabic music, and everybody's dancing, and it was insane. I've never been to anything like it, like 300 people on the dance floor and going for it. But that was a really late night for us. We had, I don't think I got to bed until 2 or 3 a.m. And I drank alcohol that night. I don't normally drink alcohol that much these days. And so I've been like in this state of feeling like I'm recovering for the last 2 days from a really late night. I'm normally in bed at 8:30 or 9 p.m. And that increases chronic inflammation in your body. And so for me, that's the first time that my shoulder has hurt in probably, close to all year. I'd say at least 6 months has been yesterday and today. And I didn't do anything major to it. It's just that the chronic inflammation raised because I got lack of sleep. So the stress is up. I drank alcohol. I ate foods that I wouldn't normally eat. Like I had a lot of breads and things like that. I don't eat a lot of bread normally. And so, anything like that, anything that you do like that is also going to affect your workout, and it's going to affect your pain in your workout. So you have to take all this kind of stuff into consideration. And when you're rehabilitating a slap tear, when you're rehabilitating any kind of shoulder injury, when you're rehabilitating any kind of injury really, in my personal experience, you can fix some really, really, really bad injuries. Like I've fixed injuries that people come to me desperate for a solution. Like they want to throw money at you to be able to fix it. And there's no magic wand that you can fix. There's processes that you need to follow. Like if you do the wrong things, it's not going to get better. But, off the cuff, the injuries that I've fixed that I can think of, I've had slap tears in both shoulders, but they both came with a lot of other stuff. Like in my right shoulder, I also had a torn supraspinatus, fluid in the bursa, and early onset of degenerative joint disease, which is just arthritis. In the left shoulder, I had a torn, I think it was a teres minor as well. and a couple of other things as well. So there's a bunch of things in there that on their own are enough to make people, really put off and really scared. I've had a pars fracture in my lumbar spine, and then I've now got spondylolisthesis and spondylosis. So I've got some pretty nasty stuff going on in my back that I've rehabilitated. I've got FAI hip. I've had a torn meniscus in my right knee. I've had a torn Lisfranc ligament, which I did have to get surgery for in my right foot. That was the only injury that I've ever had surgery for. And I've had a really bad golfer's elbow and really bad tennis elbow, and also sprains in the carpals here and the tiny little bones in the wrist that caused me to not be able to put any pressure on my hands for many, many, many months. And so all of these injuries on their own, I've also got spondylosis in my neck. I found out this year. I didn't even know that I had that. I've just, I get neck pain every now and then, and I can't turn my head to the side, and I go to the chiropractor and they give me a treatment, and it really works wonders for me. And then I just keep doing my training. And when I came to the Central Coast, when we moved from Sydney, I had to find a new chiropractor, and this new chiropractor wanted me to go and get x-rays, and I got x-rays, and she goes, oh, look, you've got all these, disc problems in your neck and everything. And so the point is that I've had so many injuries in my body, and I've got so many things that isolated on their own are enough to make people go, oh my God, how do you deal with that? Like when I had a CT scan on my back recently, and the sports doctor looked at my spine, she went, you should get your spine fused. This must be causing you terrible pain. And I said, I don't feel it at all. I don't feel any pain. And that's contrast to 10 years ago, where I used to have painkillers every day just to get through the day. And the reason why I don't feel pain like that, there was a time where that injury was my worst injury by far, my lower back. And there was a period of time where all my training was geared around being pain-free for my lower back. And I did that for, I don't know, maybe it was a couple of years that my focus was around that. That was actually one of the real birthing points of the UMS, was when I got out of the army. I was 34 when I got out of the army, so it's 12 years ago now. How crazy is that? Luke, I'll answer your question in a minute about how many injuries, how did I get all those injuries? When I got out of the army, I had such bad back pain that I was just all about trying to get out of back pain, and it was one of the main driving factors behind how and why we created the UMS, the Unified Movement System, where it's, we market and we talk about that the UMS is about the balance between strength and flexibility, but it's so much more than that. It was birthed around structural balance in the body to overcome most injuries. And most people that we were dealing with in North Sydney, corporate professionals, most people had some kind of a back injury or some kind of a shoulder injury or some kind of a knee injury. And so we built this program where we were working with chiropractors and physical therapists that were around fixing that. And I was just so desperate to fix my back. And so that's how, that's how it all happened. Luke Okada on YouTube has said, dang, you're like Frankenstein, homie. How did you have so many injuries? I'll answer that question right now. Let's go through my injury history. I have always been a sucker for punishment, and I've always been somebody. Man, when I was younger, I had the worst all or nothing mentality. And this is why Yanni and I, my brother, who's the co-owner of Unity Gym, this is why we have this saying, get rid of the all or nothing mentality and develop the some is better than none mentality, because we created this. Nobody told us about this. We worked this out for ourselves the very, very, very hard way. So when I was in my 20s, I was all about Kung Fu, and I was all about being the absolute best that I could be. And I was doing acrobatics and blah, blah, blah. And I'd learned this flip called a spinning butterfly flip. They call it different names in different martial arts, but I was really proud of myself. I just learned it, and I was showing off to a mate of mine. I wanted to show him that I could do this butterfly flip, and I did it. I landed wrong, and my foot landed really badly on the ground, and my foot basically just bent right back, and my big toe went like that. So your big toe is connected from about halfway down your foot to the second toe, and it's only free at the bottom, and that ligament there that holds the whole foot together completely tore. And it made this god-awful tearing sound, like it sounded like jeans, like denim tearing. It went, and I hit the ground, and I was in complete shock. I couldn't feel any pain. I looked at my mate, and I went, did you hear that? And he went like that. and I stood up and tried to walk, and my big toe just went like that. And I got home as quick as I could, and by the time I got home, I was in so much pain. My body was like shivering like this. Anyway, had to get surgery on that one. That my spine, I had a really nasty fall when I was in the army. So I was an infantry soldier, and I was on an exercise over in East Timor, and I had body armor that weighed 35 kilograms. So that's almost 80 pounds. That'd be about 75 pounds was the weight of my body armor. And then I had ammunition, my rifle, my helmet, everything. I would have had about 45 kilograms, so about 9,500 pounds of weight on me. And it was at night time, and we were using night vision, and I had to, I was firing, and I had to get up and take a bound. And as I, stood up and ran, I fell down a ravine in the ground where the earth had opened up, either from an earthquake or I don't know what. But it would have been about 10 foot down, and I just fell straight down on it and hit the deck, and my back made this god almighty crack sound. And I was airlifted out and taken to the medical center and told that I'd fractured my spine. That was a pars fracture. So that's what that one was. My meniscus tear, I did from this was one of the biggest all or nothing mentality moments I'd ever had. I didn't know that I had a FAI hip, femoral acetabular impingement, and that restricts internal rotation. And I'd been to an Ido Portal workshop about 10 years ago, and I learned a whole bunch of exercises that I'd never learned before. And I was all about, being the best mover that I could be. And I was trying to force hip internal rotation. I had very poor hip internal rotation. And through trying to force that, I tore my meniscus. And my mate, my sports physical therapist friend that I went and saw after it, he just went, "How the fuck did you tear your meniscus, man?" And I told him what I was doing, and he just came down and did a quick assessment on me, and he goes, "Yeah, you've got FAI hip. You're never going to get hip internal rotation." So that was fun. Golfer's elbow, I was trying to force progression with one arm pull-ups. When I wasn't ready for it, I didn't have the required strength yet, and I was trying to force progression, and I started to feel pain here, didn't know what it was, just pushed through it, all or nothing mentality. I'm going to do these workouts no matter what. And I just pushed through it until it got so bad that I couldn't pull at all for about 6 to 9 months. That was terrible. Slap tears, same thing, all or nothing mentality with working on calisthenics for the planche. Just trying to force progression, not seeing the progression that I wanted, and I just wasn't strong enough. I didn't have the muscle mass that I have now, and tried to force it and hurt myself. And so that's why now I teach people that all or nothing is the worst mentality you can have, and some is always better than none. And since I did my slap tears 5 years ago, that was the last bad injury I'd ever had. That was the end of the rope, where I looked back at my training, I looked back at my history, and I said, something's got to change. This isn't working for me, what I'm doing. And so now I train with the some is better than none mentality, which means that every workout, some is always better than none for me. And I never try to push myself beyond what I know I'm capable of. And since having my slap tears, I'm now stronger than I was before my slap tears. I've completely overcome my injuries. I've completely overcome all my injuries. I'm pain-free. I'm 46 years old, and I'm in better shape, and I'm more capable than I was 20 years ago when I was 26 years old. I'm in way better shape. So, and you can be too. You honestly can. And guys, I have to go. I've got to teach a class now. But if you want a result like that, if you want to turn this injury cycle around, if you want to get in the best shape of your life, even when you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s, then come and join my online personal training. It's normally $79 a month, but right now we have reduced the price to $49 per month. It's the last opportunity for you guys to get it at our old rate. So if you want to do that, go to unitygym.com/UMS-discount. If you're listening to the podcast or you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description. But for those of you on Instagram, you've got to go to unitygym.com/UMS-discount. Get on board, and I'll see you tomorrow. And if you guys have got questions, I'm here to answer your questions. And I keep doing videos on slap tears because I keep getting questions about slap tears. So if you want me to talk about flexibility, if you want me to talk about strength, yesterday I talked about progressive overload. Whatever you want me to talk about, you got to put questions on my videos, and I will respond to the comments or questions on my videos and make live streams about it. And I'll see you tomorrow, same time. I do this Sunday to Thursday, for those of you in the US, at 10:30 a.m. or whatever time it is now, half an hour ago. For those of you that are in Australia, it's Monday to Friday at 5:30 a.m. Yes, I am doing this for you guys at 5:30 a.m., so it's at a good time for you. But I've got to go and teach a class now, everybody. So love you. I'll see you tomorrow.